The Korean Mafia boss's 3-day-old baby was dying because he refused every bottle, his dead mother's milk the only thing that could save him. And when the desperate father spotted Fatima's leaked breast milk stains on her diner uniform at 2 a.m, he made an offer that sounded insane. "I'll pay you $15,000 a month to live in my home and breastfeed my son until he's weaned." Fatima's own daughter had died 6 weeks ago, her body still mourning through milk production, and feeding another woman's baby felt like betraying Asta's memory. But the infant's blue lips and weakening cries broke something inside her, and the moment she brought him to her breast and felt him latch desperately, she knew she'd just agreed to something far more dangerous than nursing. Because now, the ruthless man who controls Atlanta's underworld is watching her feed his child every night with eyes that have stopped looking grateful and started looking hungry. And Fatima's realizing that babies aren't the only things that get attached to the women who nurture them. By the way, family, if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, you can join as a member or send a super thanks. Totally optional. Your support helps me post more for you. The fluorescent lights of Rosie's diner flickered as Fatima wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that night. At 2 in the morning, Atlanta's Midtown district was supposed to be quiet, but the sound of screeching tires made her look up from her work. A black SUV slammed to a stop outside, and a man in an expensive suit burst through the door carrying a screaming baby. Fatima had seen many strange things working the graveyard shift, but nothing like this. The man's face was carved from stone, his jaw tight with desperation. Dark circles shadowed his eyes and his hands trembled as he held the wailing infant. 3 men in dark clothing followed him inside, their jackets bulging with what Fatima knew were weapons. "Please," the man said, his accent thick with Korean inflection. "My son needs help. He won't stop crying. 3 days now. He refuses the bottle." Fatima's heart clenched. The baby's face was red and swollen from crying, his little fists beating weakly against his father's chest. She recognized that cry. It was the same desperate wail her own daughter had made before Fatima lost her 6 weeks ago. The same hunger, the same pain. "Sir, you need to take him to a hospital," Fatima said, coming around the counter. But even as she spoke, she saw the baby's lips turning slightly blue. This wasn't regular crying. This was a child fading away. The man's dark eyes met hers, and Fatima saw something she never expected to see in a man who radiated such power and danger. She saw a father breaking apart. "I am Ji-hwan Park," he said quietly, and Fatima's blood went cold. Everyone in Atlanta knew that name. He controlled half the city's underground operations. People whispered his name in fear. "My wife died 3 days ago. Childbirth complications. The baby won't take formula, won't take bottles from anyone. The doctors say he needs mother's milk, but she's gone." Fatima looked at the dying child in his arms. Her shift dress still had damp spots from where her own milk had leaked through earlier. Her body hadn't understood yet that her baby was gone, buried in a grave she visited every Sunday after her shift at the diner ended. "I can try," she heard herself say. "I just lost my daughter. I'm still nursing, or my body thinks I am." Ji-hwan's eyes widened. For a moment, the dangerous mafia boss disappeared, and all that remained was a desperate father. "Please." Fatima glanced at her manager through the kitchen window. He was half asleep, wouldn't notice anything. She led Ji-hwan to the back booth, the one hidden from the street view. His guards positioned themselves by the doors and windows, and she realized they'd turned this diner into a fortress in seconds. She sat down and held out her arms. Ji-hwan hesitated for just a moment before placing his son in her embrace. The baby was so light, too light. His cries were growing weaker. What's his name? Fatima asked, unbuttoning her uniform top with shaking fingers. Sungmin. It means goodness and cleverness in Korean. Fatima brought the baby to her breast, and the diner fell silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then Sungmin latched on, and the relief that flooded through Fatima was almost painful. The baby drank eagerly, his little hands curling against her skin. She looked up and found Ji-hwan staring at her with an expression she couldn't name. It wasn't just gratitude, it was something deeper, something that made her skin feel warm despite the diner's cold air conditioning. "You're saving his life," Ji-hwan whispered. He sat down across from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive and foreign. "How can I repay this?" "You don't have to repay kindness," Fatima said softly. "I know what it's like to lose a child. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone, not even on someone like you." Ji-hwan's jaw tightened. "Someone like me. I know who you are," Fatima said, meeting his eyes, even though her heart hammered in her chest. "Everyone knows, but right now, you're just a father who needs help. That's all that matters." Something shifted in Ji-hwan's expression. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, watching his son nurse. "What's your name?" "Fatima. I'm from Ethiopia. Been in Atlanta for 3 years now." "Your daughter," Ji-hwan said carefully. "What happened?" Fatima blinked back tears. "She was born too early, lived for 2 beautiful days. I got to hold her, feed her, love her. Then she was gone. 3 weeks ago." Ji-hwan reached across the table and did something that shocked her. He took her free hand in his palm warm and calloused. "I'm sorry. That kind of pain. It destroys you from the inside." "Yes," Fatima whispered. "It does." They sat like that for 20 minutes while Sungmin nursed. When the baby finally pulled away, milk drunk and content, his colour had returned. His breathing was steady. Ji-hwan took him carefully, cradling him against his shoulder, and Sungmin let out a tiny, satisfied burp. For the first time in 3 days, the baby wasn't crying. Ji-hwan looked at Fatima as she buttoned her uniform, and the intensity in his gaze made her fingers fumble. "I need to see you again. Tomorrow night. Sungmin will need to feed again." "I work every night," Fatima said. "Midnight to 8 in the morning." "I'll come back," Ji-hwan promised. He pulled out his wallet, and Fatima expected him to leave a generous tip. Instead, he counted out $100 bills until there was a stack of 100 on the table. $10,000. "I can't take that," Fatima gasped. "You saved my son's life. This is nothing compared to that." Ji-hwan stood, still holding Sungmin against his chest. "But if you won't take it as payment, take it as a gift. I heard you tell your manager earlier that you're working 3 jobs. That your mother in Ethiopia needs surgery." Fatima's throat tightened. He'd been listening before he came inside. How long had he been sitting in that SUV, gathering courage to ask a stranger for help? "Take the money, Fatima from Ethiopia," Ji-hwan said softly. "Let me do this one good thing. God knows I've done enough bad things in my life. Maybe this balances the scales a little." He reached into his jacket, and Fatima tensed, but he only pulled out a business card. He wrote a number on the back with a pen from his pocket. "This is my private number. Only 5 people in the world have it. Now you're the 6th. If you need anything, you call me. Protection, money, help, anything at all." Fatima took the card with trembling fingers. "Why would you do this for me?" Ji-hwan looked at his sleeping son, then back at her. "Because when I walked through that door, I was ready to burn down the entire city to save him. I had doctors on standby, ready to kidnap nursing mothers from hospitals. I was going to become a monster tonight, but you offered kindness instead. You gave freely what I was ready to take by force. That kind of goodness is rare in my world. It should be protected." He walked toward the door, his guards falling into formation around him. At the threshold, he turned back. "I'll see you tomorrow night, Fatima. Same time." Then he was gone, leaving only the smell of expensive cologne and the stack of $100 bills on the table. Fatima's manager emerged from the kitchen, yawning. "Who was that?" "Big tipper. Just someone who needed help," Fatima whispered, staring at the money that would pay for her mother's surgery and 6 months of rent. She touched her breast where Sungmin had nursed and felt the strangest sensation. For the first time since losing her daughter, feeding a baby hadn't felt like a reminder of death. It had felt like the beginning of something she couldn't name yet. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a text message. "Thank you for giving me my son back. Sleep well, Fatima. You're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. JH." Fatima looked out the window at the city lights, her heart racing. She'd just breastfed a Mafia boss's baby. She'd just taken $10,000 from a dangerous man. She'd just felt something spark to life inside her chest when his hand had touched hers. What had she just started? The next 23 hours until her next shift felt like an eternity. Fatima sent money to her mother's doctor in Addis Ababa, paid 3 months of rent in advance, and bought groceries for the first time in weeks. But mostly she thought about Ji-hwan's eyes, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and breakable. When midnight finally arrived and she walked into the diner for her shift, the black SUV was already waiting outside. Ji-hwan emerged with Sungmin, and the baby was crying again, hungry and desperate. But this time, when their eyes met through the diner window, Ji-hwan smiled. It was small and hesitant, like he'd forgotten how. Fatima smiled back and didn't understand why it felt like jumping off a cliff. She was about to find out that some cliffs led to flight, and others led to falling in love with the most dangerous man in Atlanta. For 7 nights, Ji-hwan came to the diner like clockwork, always at 2 a.m. when the other customers had left, always carrying Sungmin, always watching Fatima with those intense dark eyes while his son nursed. On the 8th night, everything changed. Fatima was wiping down tables when the door chimed, but this time, Ji-hwan wasn't alone. A hard-faced Korean man in his 40s followed him inside, his expression radiating disapproval. Sungmin was crying, reaching for Fatima the moment he saw her. "He knows you now," Ji-hwan said, and there was something warm in his voice. "Watch." He set the baby down on the booth seat, and Sungmin crawled toward Fatima with determined baby speed, making happy gurgling sounds. When he reached her, he pulled himself up using her leg and lifted his arms, demanding to be held. Fatima's heart melted. She picked him up, and Sungmin immediately nuzzled against her chest, his little hands patting her exactly where he knew food came from. "Smart boy," Ji-hwan said softly. "He knows his mother when he sees her." The other man made a disgusted sound. "She's not his mother. His mother is dead. This woman is just a convenience." Fatima felt the words like a slap. But Ji-hwan turned on the man with cold fury. "Kyung-soo, you will speak respectfully, or you will leave." "You're making a mistake," Kyung-soo said in Korean, but Fatima had learned a few words from the Ethiopian Korean church in her neighborhood. She understood enough. "She's using you, using the baby." Ji-hwan responded in rapid Korean, his voice deadly quiet. Whatever he said made Kyung-soo step back and bow slightly, though his eyes remained hostile when he looked at Fatima. She fed Sungmin in silence, tension thick in the air. When the baby finished and fell asleep in her arms, Ji-hwan took him gently and handed him to Kyung-soo. "Wait in the car. We need to talk privately." Kyung-soo left with visible reluctance. Ji-hwan slid into the booth, across from Fatima, and folded his hands on the table. "I have a proposal for you." I'm not interested in proposals from men like you, Fatima said, though her voice shook. Hear me first, before you decide. Ji-hwan's eyes never left hers. Sung-min needs you. Formula isn't enough for him. The doctors say breast milk from his biological mother would have antibodies specific to him, but since that's impossible, milk from any nursing mother is better than formula. He's gaining weight with you, thriving. So you want me to keep feeding him here at the diner? Fatima said. No. I want you to come live in my home. Be his wet nurse full-time. I'll pay you $15,000 a month, plus provide a private room, security, and anything else you need. Fatima stared at him. You want me to live with you, a man I barely know, a dangerous man. I won't touch you, Ji-hwan said flatly. This is business, professional. You feed my son, help care for him, and in return, you make more money than working 3 jobs. Your mother gets her surgery. You sleep in a safe place instead of that apartment in a building where gunshots happen twice a week. Fatima's cheeks burned. You had someone investigate me. I protect what's mine. That includes people under my protection. Ji-hwan leaned forward. I know you work here, at a grocery store, and cleaning offices downtown. I know you send 70% of everything you earn to Ethiopia. I know your landlord is trying to raise your rent illegally. I know you're exhausted and scared and one bad week away from losing everything. You have no right to dig into my life, Fatima said, anger flaring. I have every right. The moment you touched my son, you became important. I don't let important things remain vulnerable. Ji-hwan pulled out a contract and set it on the table. 6 months, live in my home, care for Sung-min until he's ready to be weaned. At the end, you get a bonus of $50,000, enough to bring your mother here to America if you want. Fatima's hands trembled. That kind of money could change everything, but living with Ji-hwan, in his world of violence and crime. What happens if I say no? She asked. Then I respect your choice and find another way, Ji-hwan said simply. But I'm asking you, Fatima. My son is happy with you. He smiles when you hold him. He's known nothing but pain and loss since he was born. You give him comfort. Please don't take that away from him. The plea in his voice undid her. This brutal man was begging for his child's happiness. I need to think about it, Fatima whispered. You have 24 hours. Ji-hwan stood and placed another stack of money on the table. This is for tonight. Whatever you decide, thank you for the week you've already given him. He left, and Fatima sat in the empty diner holding a contract that promised her financial security and possibly her own destruction. She called her mother in Ethiopia that morning, told her everything. Fatima, my daughter, listen to me, her mother said in Amharic. God doesn't send blessings wrapped in pretty paper. Sometimes he sends them through strange doors. This man's money can save my life. But more than that, you said his baby smiles with you. After losing Asta, don't you want to hold a child again? To feel needed? Mama, he's a criminal, Fatima whispered. And you're a woman of faith who believes in redemption. Maybe you're there to be a light in his darkness. Or maybe you just need to heal by helping his son heal. Either way, trust God and trust yourself. 23 hours later, Fatima walked into the diner for what would be her last shift. Ji-hwan was waiting, Sung-min asleep in his arms. I'll do it, Fatima said, but I have conditions. I get my own room with a lock. I attend church every Sunday, and if I ever feel unsafe, I can leave immediately with no consequences. Ji-hwan's face transformed with relief. Agreed. All of it. Pack your things. I'll have movers collect your furniture tomorrow. Tonight, you come home with me. Tonight? Fatima gasped. Sung-min needs you. Why wait? 2 hours later, Fatima sat in the back of the SUV, holding a sleeping baby, while Atlanta's glittering skyline gave way to the wealthy mansions of Buckhead. Jihuan's home was a modern fortress, high walls, security cameras everywhere, guards at the gate. Inside, it was beautiful and cold. Marble floors, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows. A housekeeper named Mrs. Chen showed Fatima to her room, a suite larger than her entire apartment had been. Private bathroom, walk-in closet, a small sitting area. Mr. Park asked me to stock your bathroom with everything you might need, Mrs. Chen said kindly. If there's anything else, just ask. I'm glad you're here. The baby needs a mother's touch. After Mrs. Chen left, Ji Huan appeared in the doorway, still holding Sung Min. The nursery is next door to your room. I'm down the hall. If you need anything at night, there's an intercom system. He handed her the baby, and their fingers brushed. Electricity shot through Fatima's arm. Ji Huan felt it too. She saw his eyes widen slightly. Get some rest, he said roughly. Tomorrow, I'll introduce you to the household staff and show you how everything works. But he didn't leave. He stood there watching her hold his son, and the expression on his face made Fatima's breath catch. It was hunger, but not the dangerous kind. It was loneliness recognizing its cure. Ji Huan, she whispered. Don't, he said sharply, stepping back. Don't look at me like that. This is business, professional. I told you I wouldn't touch you, and I meant it. He left abruptly, and Fatima heard his bedroom door close down the hall with a firm click. She fed Sung Min and rocked him to sleep, then placed him in the expensive crib in the nursery. The baby monitor glowed green on the nightstand. Fatima took a long shower in her private bathroom, then climbed into bed, wearing the new pyjamas Mrs. Chen had left for her. She couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, too large. Around 3 a.m, she heard footsteps in the hall. Then Ji Huan's voice through the baby monitor, speaking softly in Korean. Fatima crept to the nursery door and peered through. Ji Huan stood over the crib, one hand gently stroking Sung Min's back. He was singing a lullaby, his voice cracking with emotion. Your mama would have loved you so much, he whispered in English, probably not knowing Fatima could hear. Minseo wanted you more than anything. She died giving you life, and I'll never forgive myself for not saving her. But I'll protect you, Sung Min. I'll give you everything. And maybe the woman sleeping next door will help me figure out how to be the father you deserve. Fatima's eyes filled with tears. This dangerous man was just a grieving husband trying to raise his son alone. She retreated to her room before he could discover her eavesdropping, but sleep still wouldn't come. She kept thinking about Ji Huan's hands, the way they were so gentle with Sung Min, but probably brutal with everyone else. What kind of man was she living with? And why did some foolish part of her heart want to find out? 3 weeks passed like a fever dream. Fatima fell into a rhythm. Wake with Sung Min at 6, feed him, play with him, feed him again at 9, morning nap, lunch, afternoon activities, dinner feeding, bedtime routine. Between feedings, she had hours to herself in the massive house. Ji Huan was gone most days, handling what he vaguely called business. But he always returned by 6 for dinner, which Mrs. Chen prepared and served formally in the dining room. He'd hold Sung Min while Fatima ate, then watch while she fed the baby before bed. Those evening hours became Fatima's favourite and most dangerous time, because Ji Huan talked to her, really talked, about his childhood in Seoul, his father's expectations, the choices that led him into this life, about Minseo, the arranged marriage that became real love, her death that destroyed him. Fatima shared her own story, growing up in Addis Ababa, coming to America with dreams of becoming a nurse, meeting Dawit, who promised marriage then disappeared when she got pregnant. losing Asta after 2 perfect days. We're both broken people, Ji-hwan said one evening, his voice low. They sat in the living room, Sung-min asleep between them on the couch, trying to raise a baby who deserves better than broken parents. You're not broken, Fatima said softly. You're grieving. That's different. Is it? Ji-hwan looked at her, and the intensity made her skin flush. Because when I look at you, I feel things I shouldn't feel, things that have nothing to do with grief and everything to do with wanting something I can't have. Fatima's heart hammered. Ji-hwan, don't. I know. Professional relationship. Business arrangement. He stood abruptly, scooping up Sung-min. I'll put him to bed tonight. You should rest. He left before Fatima could respond, but the words hung in the air like smoke. Wanting something I can't have. The next morning, Kyung-soo arrived for a meeting. Fatima was in the kitchen with Sung-min when she overheard raised voices from Ji-hwan's office. The men are questioning your judgment, Kyung-soo said in English, probably for emphasis. They say, the African woman has made you soft. Dmitry Volkov's crew is pushing into our territory because they think you're distracted. Let them push, Ji-hwan said coldly. I'll remind them why they fear my name. Will you? Or will you stay home playing house with your son's wet nurse? The sound of something slamming made Fatima jump. Careful, old friend. My patience has limits. I've served you for 15 years, Kyung-soo said. I was there when Min Seo died. I saw you break. But this woman, she's not Min Seo. She's using you, can't you see? Taking your money, living in luxury, while her true intentions remain hidden. Fatima saved my son's life, Ji-hwan said, his voice deadly quiet. She works harder than anyone I know. She sends almost all her money to her sick mother instead of spending it on herself. She asked for a lock on her bedroom door because she's terrified of me, but she still feeds Sung-min with more love than any nurse I could hire. So you will speak of her with respect, or we're done. Choose. Silence. Then Kyung-soo's bitter laugh. You're falling for her. This is worse than I thought. Get out. Kyung-soo left, brushing past Fatima in the hallway without acknowledging her. She stood frozen. Sung-min in her arms, processing what she'd heard. Ji-hwan thought she worked hard, sent money to her mother instead of spending it. He'd defended her. Ji-hwan emerged from his office and stopped when he saw her. How much did you hear? Enough, Fatima whispered. Is it true? Your men think I'm making you weak. My men think too much and fight too little, Ji-hwan said. Don't worry about them. But this Dmitry person is pushing into your territory because of me. Ji-hwan crossed the space between them in 3 strides. He stopped just inches away, close enough that Fatima could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. Dmitry is pushing because he's ambitious and stupid. That has nothing to do with you. Kyung-soo said I'm using you, Fatima said, her voice breaking. Maybe he's right. Maybe I should leave before I cause more problems. You're not going anywhere. Ji-hwan's hand came up and cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. I won't allow it. You don't own me, Fatima whispered, but she didn't pull away from his touch. Don't I? Ji-hwan's eyes dropped to her lips. Because I think about you constantly, Fatima. I think about how brave you are. How kind. I think about the way you sing to Sung-min in Amharic, the way you laugh at Mrs. Chen's jokes. I think about what it would feel like to kiss you until neither of us can breathe. Fatima's knees went weak. This is wrong. You're my employer. I'm just the help. You're not the help. You're the woman who brought light back into this dark house. You're the woman I want so badly, it's killing me. Ji-hwan's other hand found her waist, pulling her closer. Sung-min made a happy sound between them, oblivious to the tension. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm alone in this madness. Fatima couldn't lie. I feel it. God help me. I feel it every time you look at me. But it's dangerous and complicated, and everything about this is wrong. Then let's be wrong together, Ji-hwan whispered, and kissed her. The world exploded. His lips were demanding and hungry, claiming her with a possession that should have frightened her, but instead made her melt. Fatima kissed him back, with all the loneliness and desire she'd been suppressing for weeks. Her free hand fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. Sungmin squealed with delight between them, and they broke apart, breathing hard. My room, Ji-hwan said roughly. Tonight, after you put Sungmin to bed, if you want this, if you want me. Yes, Fatima heard herself say. Yes. The rest of the day crawled by. Fatima fed Sungmin, played with him, bathed him, but her mind was on tonight, on Ji-hwan's kiss, on the promise in his eyes. At 8, she put Sungmin to bed with trembling hands. She showered and changed into a simple dress, her heart racing. Down the hall, she could see light under Ji-hwan's door. She knocked softly. Come in, his voice called. Fatima opened the door and stepped into Ji-hwan's private world. His bedroom was masculine and elegant, dark furniture, a massive bed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He stood by those windows, still dressed in his work clothes, tension in every line of his body. You came, he said. I shouldn't have, Fatima whispered, but I couldn't stay away. Ji-hwan crossed to her, and this time there was no hesitation. He kissed her deeply, backing her toward the bed. His hands found the zipper of her dress, and Fatima's fingers worked at the buttons of his shirt. Clothes fell away, and then they were skin to skin, and Fatima forgot every reason this was wrong. Ji-hwan was possessive and demanding, but also surprisingly tender. He worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, whispering in Korean words she didn't understand, but that sounded like prayers. When he finally made love to her, Fatima cried out, overwhelmed by sensation and emotion. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin. Ji-hwan traced patterns on her back, his other hand in her hair. I've awakened something dead inside me, he whispered. I thought I'd never feel anything again after Min Seo died, but you make me feel everything. Fatima lifted her head, studying his face. This changes everything between us. Good. I want everything changed. I want you in my bed every night. I want you to be mine. Ji-hwan's hand tightened in her hair. Tell me you're mine, Fatima. I'm yours, she whispered, and meant it. They made love again, slower this time, learning each other's bodies. But around midnight, Fatima's practical side reasserted itself. The staff will know, she said, sitting up and reaching for her dress. Mrs. Chen, the guards, they'll figure it out. Let them know, Ji-hwan said, pulling her back down. I don't care who knows that you're mine now. But Kyung-soo was right. Your men already think I'm making you weak. If they find out we're together, it'll get worse. Ji-hwan's expression turned cold. Then, I'll make an example of anyone who disrespects you. Problem solved. Violence isn't always the answer, Fatima said softly. In my world, it's the only answer they understand. Ji-hwan kissed her forehead. But I'll try to be gentler for you because you make me want to be better. Fatima fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than she had in years, despite knowing she was sleeping with the most dangerous man in Atlanta. She woke at dawn to Sungmin's cries through the baby monitor. Ji-hwan was already awake, watching her. Good morning, he said, his voice rough with sleep and satisfaction. I have to feed him, Fatima said, blushing at her nakedness in the growing light. I know, but first, this. Ji-hwan kissed her thoroughly, possessively. So, you remember whose bed you belong in now. Fatima dressed quickly and hurried to the nursery. As she fed Sungmin, her body still humming from Ji-hwan's touch, She wondered what she'd just committed herself to. She was about to find out that falling in love with a mafia boss meant inheriting all his enemies, and his biggest enemy was about to make his move. For 2 weeks, Fatima lived in a bubble of stolen happiness. Her days were spent caring for Seungmin, her nights in Ji-hwan's bed learning the geography of his body and the depths of his passion. He was insatiable, demanding, but also tender in ways that broke her heart. He'd hold her afterward and talk about his dreams of leaving this life, starting over somewhere safe. But reality had a way of shattering bubbles. It started with whispers. Fatima noticed the household staff treating her differently, some with respect, others with barely concealed contempt. The guards at the gate looked at her with knowing smirks. Kyung-soo refused to speak to her at all. Then came the photograph. Ji-hwan was in his office when Kyung-soo burst in without knocking. Fatima was nearby in the living room with Seungmin, and she heard every word through the open door. "We have a problem," Kyung-soo said. "Dimitri's men have been watching the house. They have photographs of you and the woman together, kissing in the garden last week, her leaving your bedroom at dawn." Silence. Then Ji-hwan's deadly calm voice. So they're using it against you. Dimitri sent these to our associates. He's telling everyone you've become weak for an African woman, that you care more about her than business. 3 of our operations were hit last night. Savannah, Augusta, and the warehouse outside Macon. 5 of our men are dead. Fatima's blood turned to ice. 5 men dead because of her. Dimitri has been planning this for months, Ji-hwan said. He's using Fatima as an excuse, but he'd have moved regardless. Don't blame her for his ambition. I'm not blaming her, Kyung-soo said, though his tone suggested otherwise. I'm telling you that she's become a liability. Dimitri sent a message with the photographs. He wants our Southside territory and Buford highway operations, and he wants you to give up the woman. If you refuse both, he's promising a war. Fatima stood frozen, Seungmin playing at her feet. Give her up, like she was property to be traded. Tell Dimitri, Ji-hwan said, his voice like ice, that I'll burn this entire city to ashes before I give up what's mine. The territory, the operations, or Fatima. He wants war, I'll give him annihilation. Boss, think about this, Kyung-soo pleaded. She's just a woman. We can find you another one. But if we go to war with Dimitri's organization, we'll lose men, lose money, lose respect. The sound of a gun cocking made Fatima gasp. She peered through the doorway and saw Ji-hwan pointing a pistol at Kyung-soo's head. Call her just a woman one more time, Ji-hwan said softly, and I'll paint these walls with your brain. She's not just anything. She's mine. She feeds my son, warms my bed, and makes me remember what it feels like to be human. So you'll treat her with respect, or you'll die. Choose carefully. Kyung-soo raised his hand slowly. I choose respect. I'm sorry, boss. I'm just trying to protect you. Then protect what I love, instead of questioning it. Ji-hwan lowered the gun. Now get out and start preparing. If Dimitri wants war, we'll show him why people fear the park name. After Kyung-soo left, Fatima appeared in the doorway. Ji-hwan's face transformed when he saw her, the cold killer replaced by the man who held her at night. You heard, he said. 5 men are dead because of me, Fatima whispered. Ji-hwan, I should leave. Go back to my apartment. This was always temporary anyway. Ji-hwan crossed to her in 3 strides and gripped her arms. You're not going anywhere. Don't you understand? I meant what I said. I'll burn the whole city before I lose you. That's insane, Fatima said, tears streaming down her face. I'm not worth a war. You're worth everything. Ji-hwan cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. Fatima, I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have. I look at you with my son, and I see the family I thought I'd lost forever. I feel things with you I've never felt with anyone. Not even Min Seo. So no, you're not leaving. You're staying right here where you're safe, where I can protect you. I'm scared, Fatima whispered. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. But trust me to handle this. Ji-hwan kissed her hard, desperately. I need you to do something for me. Take Sung-min to the safe room in the basement. There's food, water, everything you need. Stay there until I come get you. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. Remind Dimitri who owns this city. Ji-hwan's eyes went cold. I'll be back before morning. Keep our son safe. He kissed her once more, then was gone, shouting orders to his men. Within minutes, the house was a flurry of activity. Guards loading weapons, cars pulling up to the driveway. Mrs. Chen appeared and guided Fatima to the basement safe room, a concrete bunker with comfortable furniture and supplies. Mr. Park had this built after Mrs. Min Seo died, the housekeeper explained. He was terrified something would happen to the baby. Now he's terrified for you too. Fatima spent the night in the safe room, nursing Sung-min and trying not to imagine what Ji-hwan was doing. The baby sensed her fear and was fussy, crying more than usual. She sang to him in Amharic, old lullabies her mother had sung to her, and prayed that Ji-hwan would come back alive. Dawn was breaking when she heard the locks on the safe room door disengage. Fatima tensed, ready to defend Sung-min with her life if necessary. The door opened and Ji-hwan stood there, covered in blood. Fatima screamed before she could stop herself. Ji-hwan raised his hands quickly. Not my blood. I'm not hurt. Most of it isn't mine. He looked like something from a nightmare. His expensive suit was ruined, blood splattered across his face and hands, but his eyes were clear and focused on her. Is it done? Fatima whispered. It's done. Dimitri is dead. I killed him myself. His organization is scattered. We lost 3 men, but we destroyed 40 of his. The message is sent. No one touches what belongs to me. Ji-hwan stepped into the safe room, and Fatima saw how he moved carefully, like he was injured despite his claims. You're hurt, she said, standing with Sung-min in her arms. Just bruised ribs. I'll heal. Ji-hwan reached for his son, and Sung-min went to him easily, not frightened by the blood. The baby had seen his father like this before, Fatima realized with horror. This was normal in his world. How did you kill him? Fatima asked, not sure she wanted to know. With my hands. I wanted him to know who was taking his life. Ji-hwan's voice was flat, empty. He begged at the end, offered me everything. Money, territory, alliances. But I thought about you tied up in his warehouse, beaten and terrified. I thought about how he planned to use you against me, so I squeezed until he stopped breathing. Fatima should have been horrified, should have run screaming, but instead she saw the truth. Ji-hwan had killed to protect her, had waged war rather than give her up. Come upstairs, she said softly. Let me clean you up and check your injuries. In Ji-hwan's bathroom, Fatima helped him out of his ruined clothes while Sung-min played on the bedroom floor. She ran a hot shower and made Ji-hwan stand under the spray while she gently washed the blood away. His ribs were purple with bruises, and there was a cut on his shoulder that needed stitches. I'll call a doctor, Fatima said. No, just bandage it. I've had worse. Ji-hwan caught her hand. Thank you for not running when you saw me like that. Where would I run to? Fatima asked. You're right. I'm yours now. For better or worse. After she bandaged his injuries, they collapsed into bed together, Sung-min between them. Ji-hwan fell asleep immediately, exhausted from the night's violence. Fatima lay awake watching him, this beautiful, terrible man who had killed for her. She was in deeper than she'd ever imagined, and the terrifying part was that she didn't want to escape. But 3 days later, everything fell apart. Ji-hwan was meeting with associates in Charlotte when it happened. Fatima was in the garden with Sung-min, enjoying the afternoon sun. She didn't see the van until it was too late. 3 men grabbed her, covering her mouth before she could scream. One snatched Sung-min, but the baby wailed so loudly that they dropped him on the grass and ran with just Fatima. She fought wildly, but they were strong and brutal, punching her until she stopped struggling. The last thing she saw before they threw a bag over her head was Sung-min crying on the lawn, reaching for her, then darkness, terror, and the knowledge that she might never see either of them again. Fatima woke to cold metal against her back and rope cutting into her wrists. The bag over her head smelled of sweat and gasoline. Her face throbbed where they'd hit her, and her ribs ached. She could hear voices speaking Russian. Boss said keep her alive until Park agrees to terms. One man said in heavily accented English. What if he doesn't care? Another asked. She's just the nanny. You didn't see the photos. Park is obsessed with her. He'll give us anything to get her back. Footsteps approached. Someone yanked the bag off Fatima's head. She blinked in harsh, fluorescent light. The space looked like an old warehouse, concrete floors and metal walls. 3 men surrounded her, all armed. One leaned close, his breath reeking of vodka. Don't worry, pretty African bird. As long as your man cooperates, you live. We even recorded a nice video for him. Want to see? He showed her his phone. On the screen, Fatima saw herself tied to this same chair, bruised and terrified. They'd filmed her while she was unconscious, positioned to make the beating look worse than it was. We sent that 2 hours ago, the man said with a cruel smile. By now, Park is receiving our demands. He gives us the South, territory and pays $50 million, or we start cutting off your fingers. Fatima's blood turned to ice. He'll never pay. He'll come kill you all instead. The man laughed. Let him try. This place has 30 armed guards. Even the great Ji-hwan Park can't fight those odds. But he was wrong. He didn't know the man Fatima had come to love. Ji-hwan didn't calculate odds. He calculated revenge. 6 hours later, Fatima was shivering with cold when the first explosion rocked the warehouse. Gunfire erupted outside, rapid and brutal. Her captors ran for the exits, shouting in Russian, leaving her tied to the chair. The battle lasted 15 minutes. Fatima heard screams, more gunfire, men begging for their lives in multiple languages, then silence. The warehouse door crashed open. Ji-hwan appeared through the smoke, gun in hand, covered in fresh blood. His eyes scanned the space until they found her, and his expression transformed from cold killer to desperate relief. Fatima, he breathed, running to her. He cut her bonds with a knife, and Fatima collapsed into his arms. Ji-hwan held her so tightly she could barely breathe, his whole body shaking. I thought I lost you, he whispered in Korean, then English. I thought they'd killed you. When I saw that video, I wanted to destroy the whole world. Sung-min, Fatima gasped. Is he safe? He's with Mrs. Chen at a safe house. He's fine. Crying for you, but fine. Ji-hwan pulled back to examine her face, rage flooding his features when he saw her bruises. Who hit you? Point him out. They're probably all dead already, Fatima said. Not all. I left 2 alive specifically to ask you this question. Ji-hwan's voice was deadly calm. Which ones hurt you, Fatima? She should have refused, should have said it didn't matter. But the violence of this world had infected her too. She pointed to the man who'd shown her the video, cowering against the far wall with a bullet in his leg. Ji-hwan stood and walked over to him. You touched her, he said flatly, and shot the man in the head. The other survivor tried to run. Ji-hwan shot him in the back without even looking. Then he returned to Fatima and gathered her in his arms like she was precious china. Can you walk? I think so. Good, because we need to leave before the police arrive. Ji-hwan lifted her anyway, carrying her through the warehouse of death he'd created, bodies everywhere, blood pooling on the concrete. Fatima buried her face in his chest and tried not to look. Outside, Kyung-soo waited by an SUV, along with a dozen other men. His face was grim but respectful when he saw Fatima. "I'm sorry," he said stiffly. "This happened on my watch. I failed in my duty to protect her. We'll discuss it later," Ji-hwan said. "Right now, get us home." The drive back to Buckhead was silent. Ji-hwan held Fatima the entire time, his arms locked around her. She felt him trembling and realized the feared Mafia boss was terrified, his control barely holding. At the safe house, Sung-min was screaming. The moment Fatima appeared, the baby launched himself at her, clinging to her neck and sobbing. She held him close, whispering reassurances, while tears streamed down her face. "He hasn't stopped crying since they took you," Mrs. Chen said, wiping her own eyes. "He knows. Babies always know when their mothers are in danger." That night, after Sung-min finally cried himself to sleep, Fatima tried to take a shower, but her hands shook too badly to turn the taps. Ji-hwan found her sitting on the bathroom floor, still in her torn and bloody clothes, staring at nothing. He didn't speak. He just turned on the shower, adjusted the temperature, and gently undressed her. Then he stripped and carried her under the spray, holding her while the water washed away the blood and dirt. Fatima broke down completely. She sobbed against his chest while he held her steady, murmuring in Korean. His lips pressed to her wet hair. "I've got you," he said over and over. "You're safe now. I'll never let anyone hurt you again." After the shower, he dried her carefully and dressed her in soft pajamas. He carried her to his bed and climbed in beside her, pulling her against his chest. "I killed 40 men tonight," Ji-hwan said quietly. 40 human beings, and I don't feel guilty about a single one. They took you from me. They hurt you. They made my son cry. I would have killed 400, 4,000. I would have leveled the entire city." "I know," Fatima whispered. "Does that frighten you, knowing what I'm capable of?" "It should, but all I feel is safe." Fatima tilted her head to look at him. "You came for me. You saved me." "Always," Ji-hwan said fiercely. "I will always come for you, Fatima, because somewhere in the last few weeks I fell completely in love with you. Not just desire, not just need. Love. The forever kind." Fatima's heart clenched. "I love you too. I tried not to. I told myself it was just physical, just gratitude for the security you provide. But I love you, Ji-hwan. All of you, even the dark parts." He kissed her then, soft and reverent. "I don't deserve you. I'm a monster who's done terrible things." "You're a man who protects what he loves," Fatima corrected. "That's not a monster. That's just human." They made love slowly that night, healing each other with gentle touches and whispered promises. Ji-hwan worshipped every bruise on her body with his lips, apologizing for each one, even though he hadn't caused them. Fatima traced the new cuts on his skin from the warehouse battle, kissing each wound. Afterward, lying tangled together, Ji-hwan said, "I'm leaving this life, all of it. I'm selling my operations to associates who can run them legally. I'm buying us a house somewhere far from Atlanta, somewhere safe where Sung-min can grow up without bulletproof cars and armed guards." "You do that?" Fatima asked. "Give up everything you've built? For you, for him?" Without hesitation, Ji-hwan's hand found hers, interlacing their fingers. "I want to marry you, Fatima. I want Sung-min to legally be your son. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life, without wondering if today's the day someone tries to hurt you to get to me." Fatima's breath caught. "Marriage? Is that so surprising? I love you. You love my son. You've brought light into the darkest corners of my life. Ji-hwan turned to face her fully. Marry me. Not someday, not eventually. Soon. As soon as we can make it happen. Yes, Fatima whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. They kissed again, sealing the promise. But at dawn, reality intruded. A phone call woke Ji-hwan. He answered, his expression growing dark as he listened. What is it? Fatima asked when he hung up. Min Seo's family. They heard about the kidnapping through news reports. They're flying in from Seoul. Ji-hwan's jaw tightened. They're demanding custody of Sung-min. They're claiming I'm unfit to raise him because of my lifestyle, and they're threatening to destroy me if I don't hand him over willingly. Fatima sat up, fear gripping her. They can't take him. He's your son. In Korea, grandparents have significant rights, especially when the mother is dead and the father is considered dangerous. Ji-hwan looked at her with anguish. They have money, lawyers, political connections. If they want to take Sung-min from me, they might succeed. Then we fight, Fatima said fiercely. We fight for our son, because that's what he is now. Ours. Ji-hwan pulled her close. I knew I loved you for a reason. You're a fighter, but as dawn broke over Atlanta, both of them knew the hardest battle was just beginning. And this time, the enemy wouldn't be Russian mobsters or rival gangs. It would be respectable people with the law on their side. How do you fight someone who uses courts instead of guns? Mrs. Choi arrived 3 days later with an entourage that included 2 lawyers, a private investigator and her eldest son, Min Seo's brother. She swept into Ji-hwan's home like a conquering army, her expression cold as she surveyed the foyer. So this is where my grandson is being raised, she said in Korean, her tone dripping with disdain. In a criminal's house with a foreign woman who has no connection to our family. Ji-hwan responded in Korean, his voice hard. Fatima didn't understand the words, but she understood the tension crackling between them. Mrs. Chen stood beside her, whispering translations. He's telling her that Sung-min is happy and healthy, that she has no right to come here making demands. The housekeeper translated. She's saying that Sung-min belongs in Korea with his real family, not here with a gangster and his African mistress. Fatima felt the insult like a physical blow, but before she could respond, Sung-min toddled over to her, pulling himself up, using her legs and demanding to be held. She lifted him automatically, and the baby settled against her chest with complete trust. Mrs. Choi's eyes narrowed. The child is too attached to her. This is inappropriate. He should know his real family, not this stranger. Fatima is his family, Ji-hwan said in English, clearly wanting Fatima to understand. She feeds him, cares for him, loves him. Sung-min knows her as his mother. His mother is dead, Mrs. Choi said sharply, also switching to English. Killed because you got her pregnant and couldn't even protect her during childbirth. My daughter died because of you. The words hung in the air like poison. Ji-hwan's face went pale, and Fatima saw the guilt he carried like a physical weight. That's not fair, Fatima said quietly. Women die in childbirth. It's tragic, but it's not murder. Ji-hwan loved your daughter. Her death destroyed him. And who are you to speak about my daughter? Mrs. Choi turned her fury on Fatima. You're nothing. A waitress who got lucky, found a rich man to take care of her. You think you can replace Min Seo? You think my grandson should call you mother? He already does, Fatima said, her voice steady despite her fear. In his own way. When he's hungry, he reaches for me. When he's scared, he cries for me. When he's happy, he wants me to see. I didn't ask for this, Mrs. Choi, but I love your grandson like he came from my own body, and I'll fight anyone who tries to take him from me, even you. Mrs. Choi's expression turned vicious. Then you'll lose. I have lawyers who will prove you're an unfit guardian. You're not married to Mr. Park. You're living in sin, setting a terrible example. And you have a criminal record, don't you? A conviction for shoplifting 2 years ago when you were desperate and hungry." Fatima's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten about that. A moment of weakness when she'd stolen food because she hadn't eaten in 3 days. The judge had been lenient, just community service, but it was still on her record. "That was a mistake I paid for," Fatima said. "It doesn't make me a bad person. It makes you unsuitable to raise my grandson." Mrs. Choi turned to Ji-hwan. "You have 1 week to agree to my terms. Sung-min comes to Korea to be raised by proper family. You can visit him, but only under supervision. If you refuse, I'll take you to court and destroy you. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. The courts will never give custody to a criminal." She left with her entourage, and the house fell silent. Ji-hwan stood frozen, his fists clenched. Fatima held Sung-min close, fighting tears. "She can't win," Fatima whispered. "Can she?" "I don't know," Ji-hwan admitted. "Family courts often favour grandparents, especially wealthy ones, with no criminal history. Everything she said about me is true. I am a criminal. I have done terrible things. A judge might decide Sung-min deserves better." "He deserves love," Fatima said fiercely. "He deserves parents who adore him. We can give him that. We're not married. We're not even engaged officially." Ji-hwan ran his hands through his hair. "In the eyes of the law, you're just my employee. You have no legal rights to him." "Then we get married," Fatima said. "Right now, today. We make it legal, so I have rights too." Ji-hwan looked at her with anguish. "That won't be enough. She'll say we only married to keep Sung-min, that it's a sham." "It's not a sham," Fatima insisted. "We love each other. We're building a family. That's real, Ji-hwan. That's worth fighting for." Over the next week, they assembled their defense. Ji-hwan hired the best family law attorney in Georgia. They gathered evidence of Sung-min's health and happiness, medical records showing his weight gain and development, photographs of him smiling and playing, testimonials from Mrs. Chen and the paediatrician. Fatima reached out to her church community. Pastor Michael and his wife agreed to testify about her character. The families she'd helped at the diner wrote letters of support. Even her former manager wrote a glowing recommendation, but the Chois fought dirty. Their private investigator dug up everything: Ji-hwan's arrest record, his suspected connections to organised crime, even old photographs from crime scenes. They found witnesses willing to testify that they'd heard Ji-hwan threaten people, that they'd seen him commit violence. They also investigated Fatima thoroughly. Her shoplifting conviction was just the beginning. They found her expired visa from when she'd first come to America, the months she'd worked under the table before getting proper documentation. They painted her as a desperate immigrant who'd seduced a rich man to secure her future. The custody hearing was set for 3 weeks away. The night before, Ji-hwan and Fatima got married in a quiet ceremony at the courthouse with only Kyung-soo and Mrs. Chen as witnesses. It wasn't the wedding Fatima had dreamed of, but when Ji-hwan slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her as his wife, it felt sacred anyway. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Ji-hwan whispered that night as they lay in bed, "I want you to know that you've given me more happiness in these few months than I thought possible. You've made me believe in second chances." "We're going to win," Fatima said. "We have to." But the hearing was brutal. Mrs. Choi's lawyers painted Ji-hwan as a violent criminal and Fatima as an opportunistic foreigner. They brought up every mistake, every poor choice, every moment of weakness. When it was their turn, Ji-hwan's lawyer called character witnesses. Pastor Michael spoke about Fatima's kindness and dedication to her community. Families from the diner testified about how she'd helped them, sometimes using her own money to pay for meals for struggling parents. The pediatrician testified that Sung-min was thriving, hitting all his developmental milestones. Mrs. Chen broke down crying as she described how Fatima sang to the baby, how gentle and patient she was. Then Ji-hwan himself took the stand. "Yes, I've done bad things," he admitted. "I'm not proud of my past, but I'm changing. I've already started divesting from my illegal operations. I've been working with federal authorities to transition everything to legitimate businesses. I'm doing this because I want to be the father my son deserves." "And what about your relationship with Ms. Dester?" the Choi lawyer asked. "Isn't it true that she's just an employee you became sexually involved with?" "No," Ji-hwan said firmly. "Fatima is my wife. She's the woman I love. She saved my son's life when no one else could. She's given him the mother's love he lost. She makes us a family." When Fatima took the stand, she spoke from her heart. "I know I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I love Sung-min with everything I have. He's not just Ji-hwan's son to me, he's mine. When I feed him, when I comfort him, when I sing him to sleep, I'm not pretending. I'm being his mother. That's real. That's true. And no one, not even his biological grandmother, can love him more than I do." The judge listened to everything, his expression unreadable. Finally, he called for a recess to make his decision. The wait was agony. Fatima sat in the hallway holding Ji-hwan's hand, while Mrs. Choi glared at them from across the corridor. Sung-min was with Mrs. Chen in the waiting room, blissfully unaware that his future hung in the balance. After 2 hours, they were called back in. The judge cleared his throat and began to speak. "This has been a difficult case. Both sides have presented compelling arguments. However, I must make my decision based on what's best for the child." Fatima's heart pounded so hard she thought she might faint. "Mrs. Choi, you are clearly a woman of means and respectability. Your desire to raise your grandson is understandable. However, your evidence against Mr. Park and Ms. Dester, while concerning, does not prove they are unfit parents. Mr. Park has shown genuine efforts to reform his life. Ms. Dester's minor criminal history does not outweigh the clear bond she has formed with the child." The judge paused, and Fatima held her breath. "Furthermore, I've reviewed the medical reports. Sung-min is healthy, happy, and thriving in his current environment. Removing him from the only mother figure he's known would be traumatic. Therefore, I'm ruling in favour of Mr. Park and his wife. Full custody remains with them." Fatima burst into tears. Ji-hwan pulled her into his arms, his own eyes wet. Across the courtroom, Mrs. Choi stood rigid with fury. "This isn't over," she hissed as she left. "I'll appeal. I'll fight this until I win." But her lawyer put a hand on her arm. "Mrs. Choi, you won't win on appeal. The judge's ruling is sound. I'm sorry." The Chois left in defeated fury, and Fatima collapsed against Ji-hwan, overwhelmed with relief. They'd won. Sung-min was theirs. That night, they celebrated quietly at home. Mrs. Chen cooked a feast, and Kyung-soo even cracked a smile as he toasted their victory. Sung-min sat in his high chair, clapping his hands and laughing at the adults' happiness. After everyone left, Ji-hwan carried Fatima to their bedroom and made love to her with tender intensity. "My wife," he whispered against her skin. "My Fatima, you fought for our son. You stood up to people who tried to destroy us. You're the strongest woman I've ever known. We did it together," Fatima said, pulling him closer. "Everything from now on, we do together." They fell asleep, tangled together. Sung-min's baby monitor glowing on the nightstand, finally at peace. But peace, Fatima was learning, was something you had to fight for every single day, and their fight was far from over. 6 months later, Charleston, South Carolina, bloomed with spring flowers. Fatima stood in the bridal suite of a historic downtown hotel, staring at her reflection in disbelief. The wedding dress was simple but elegant, white lace that hugged her curves before flowing to the floor. Her hair was styled in elaborate braids woven with small white roses. "You look beautiful," her mother said in Amharic, tears streaming down her face. The surgery had been successful. Mama was healthy now, strong enough to fly from Ethiopia to walk her daughter down the aisle. "I still can't believe this is happening," Fatima whispered. 6 months ago, I was working 3 jobs and living in a tiny apartment. Now I'm marrying Ji-hwan. "God works in mysterious ways," her mother said. "This man loves you. I see it in his eyes every time he looks at you. And he loves Sung-min like the precious gift he is." A knock at the door interrupted them. Mrs. Chen entered, carrying Sung-min dressed in a tiny tuxedo. The 14-month-old reached for Fatima immediately, and she lifted him carefully to avoid wrinkling her dress. "Mama, pretty," Sung-min said, patting her face. He was talking more every day, his vocabulary a mix of English, Korean and Amharic words. "Yes, Mama is very pretty today," Fatima said, kissing his forehead. "Are you ready to walk down the aisle with the rings?" Sung-min nodded seriously, though he probably had no idea what that meant. Mrs. Chen had been practicing with him for weeks, teaching him to toddle slowly while carrying the small pillow with the rings attached. Music started outside, signalling the ceremony was about to begin. Fatima handed Sung-min back to Mrs. Chen and took her mother's arm. "I'm ready." The wedding venue was a beautiful garden overlooking Charleston Harbour. White chairs held about 50 guests. Ji-hwan's most trusted associates, families from Fatima's church, Mrs. Chen and the household staff, and a few of Fatima's friends from the diner who'd made the trip. At the altar, Ji-hwan waited in a tailored black suit, Kyung-soo beside him as best man. When Ji-hwan saw Fatima appear at the far end of the aisle, his expression transformed with such pure love and desire that several guests gasped. The ceremony blended traditions beautifully, a Korean traditional blessing, an Ethiopian coffee ceremony, and Christian vows. When Pastor Michael asked if anyone objected, Kyung-soo actually smiled and said, "I used to object, but I was wrong. They belong together." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Ji-hwan squeezed Fatima's hands, gratitude in his eyes. Sung-min walked down the aisle with the rings, supported by Mrs. Chen. Halfway there, he abandoned the pillow and ran to Fatima instead, hugging her legs. The crowd laughed again, and Ji-hwan scooped up his son, holding him while they exchanged vows. "Fatima," Ji-hwan said, his voice thick with emotion, "you came into my life when I was drowning in darkness. You saved my son, and then you saved me. You showed me that I could be better, that love wasn't lost forever. You made me believe in second chances. I promise to spend every day of the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your faith in me. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you until my last breath. You and Sung-min are my entire world." Fatima wiped tears from her eyes. "Ji-hwan, when I walked into that diner 6 months ago, I thought I'd lost everything. My daughter, my dreams, my hope. But then you came through the door with a crying baby, and somehow, in that moment of crisis, we found each other. You've given me a family again. You've shown me that love can heal even the deepest wounds. I promise to stand beside you through everything, the good and the bad. I promise to love Sung-min as my own son, and I promise to love you with everything I have for the rest of forever." They exchanged rings through their tears. When Pastor Michael pronounced them husband and wife, Ji-hwan kissed Fatima with such passion that Kyung-soo had to clear his throat pointedly. They broke apart, laughing, Sung-min clapping between them. The reception was joyful chaos. Ethiopian food and Korean dishes side by side on the buffet. Traditional dancing from both cultures. Toasts that made everyone laugh and cry. Fatima's mother danced with Ji-hwan, whispering something that made him nod solemnly. "What did she say?" Fatima asked later. "She told me that if I ever hurt you, she'll fly back from Ethiopia specifically to hit me with her shoe," Ji-hwan said with a grin. "I believe her." As the sun set over the harbour, they cut the cake and fed each other bites, while Sung-min tried to steal frosting from the plate. Later, they stood on the terrace watching the ocean, the party continuing behind them. "Are you happy?" Ji-hwan asked, his arms around Fatima from behind. "Happier than I ever imagined I could be," Fatima said honestly. "You've given me everything, Ji-hwan." "You gave me more. You gave me redemption." He turned her to face him. "I have something to tell you. The FBI accepted my final cooperation agreement. All charges against me are being dropped. My record will show the convictions, but I'm officially out, completely legitimate. We can go anywhere, do anything, without looking over our shoulders." Fatima's eyes widened. "You're really free? We're both free. And I found us a house in Asheville, North Carolina. Mountains, clean air, good schools. Far enough from Atlanta that the past won't follow us, but close enough to visit Mrs. Chen and your church friends." Ji-hwan pulled out his phone and showed her pictures. A beautiful craftsman-style home with a big yard and mountain views. "It's perfect," Fatima breathed. "I also enrolled in community college." Ji-hwan added shyly, "Business management. I want to learn how to run my import company properly, legally. No more shortcuts or criminal connections. I want Sung-min to be proud of his father." Fatima kissed him deeply. "He already is. So am I." They danced under the stars, holding each other close, while their son slept peacefully in Mrs. Chen's arms nearby. When the reception finally ended near midnight, Ji-hwan carried Fatima to their honeymoon suite, while Kyung-soo took Sung-min back to the hotel to stay with Fatima's mother. Their wedding night was everything Fatima had dreamed of. Ji-hwan made love to his wife with reverent passion, taking his time to worship every inch of her body. They came together again and again, celebrating their union, their survival, their future. In the quiet afterward, lying in the tangle of silk sheets, Ji-hwan traced patterns on Fatima's bare back. "I never thought I'd have this again," he whispered. "A wife to love, a family to protect, a future that doesn't involve violence and fear." "We made it," Fatima said, "through everything, the danger, the custody battle, the prejudice. We fought for this, and we won." "No," Ji-hwan corrected gently. "You won. You're the fighter, Fatima. I was just lucky enough that you chose to fight for me." The epilogue of their story unfolded beautifully. 2 years later, they lived in their Asheville home with Sung-min, now 3 years old and fluent in 3 languages. Ji-hwan's import company thrived, completely legitimate and successful. He'd graduated from community college with honours and was considering a bachelor's degree. Fatima was 6 months pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. Her mother had moved to America permanently and lived in the guest house, helping with Sung-min and preparing for the twins' arrival. On a perfect autumn afternoon, Fatima sat on the porch, watching Sung-min play in the yard. The mountains blazed with fall colours, and the air smelled of wood smoke and pine. Ji-hwan came home from the office early, as he often did now, choosing family over work every time. He sat beside Fatima, his hand finding her rounded belly. The twins kicked, and his eyes lit up with wonder. "You saved my son's life that night in the diner," Ji-hwan said softly. "But really, you saved mine. You showed me that monsters can become men again if they're loved enough. You gave me back my humanity." Fatima took his hand and kissed it. We saved each other. I was drowning in grief and poverty, and you pulled me out. You gave me a family, a home, a future. We're even. Sung-min ran up to the porch, demanding attention in rapid-fire Korean. Ji-hwan scooped him up, and the little boy switched to English. "Daddy, come play. Grandma says dinner soon, but we have time." Okay, Ji-hwan laughed. He looked at Fatima. "Join us." "In a minute," Fatima said. "I want to watch you two first." She sat on the porch, one hand on her pregnant belly, watching her husband chase their son around the yard. Both of them were laughing, completely free from the darkness that had once defined them. This was what happiness looked like, Fatima realised. Not perfect, not without scars from the past, but real and precious and hard-won. They'd fought through violence, prejudice, grief and fear to build something beautiful. A Korean Mafia boss and an Ethiopian waitress, a baby who'd brought them together, and a love that had conquered everything in its path. Forever had seemed impossible once. Now it was just their everyday reality, as natural as breathing. Fatima smiled, content in ways she'd never thought possible, and called out to her boys to come in for dinner. Their family was complete, their love was unshakable, and their future stretched bright and endless before them. This was how their story ended, not with violence or tragedy, but with laughter and love and the simple joy of being together. The late afternoon sun painted the Asheville sky in shades of pink and gold as Fatima stood in the kitchen of their home, preparing dinner. Through the window, she could see Ji-hwan playing soccer with 7-year-old Sung-min and the 5-year-old twins, David and Grace. Their laughter drifted through the open windows, filling the house with joy. So much had changed in 5 years. The scars from their violent past had faded into distant memories, replaced by the beautiful, mundane rhythm of family life. Ji-hwan's import business had expanded to 3 cities, employing over 50 people, all legitimate operations. He'd finished his bachelor's degree last year and was considering a master's program. Fatima had pursued her old dream too. She was in her final year of nursing school, attending classes 3 days a week while her mother watched the children. The professors praised her dedication and compassion, having no idea that the quiet Ethiopian student in their program had once breastfed a Mafia boss's baby in a diner at 2 a.m. "Mama, we're hungry!" Grace burst through the back door, her Korean-Ethiopian features flushed from playing. She spoke mostly English now, but switched easily to Korean with her father and Amharic with her grandmother. "Dinner's almost ready," Fatima said, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Go wash up and tell your brothers to do the same." David followed his twin inside, quieter and more thoughtful. "Daddy says we can go to the mountains this weekend, camping like real adventurers." "If Mama says it's okay," Ji-hwan added, appearing in the doorway with Sung-min on his shoulders. At 7, Sung-min was tall for his age, smart and kind. He had no memory of the violence that had surrounded his first year of life. To him, Ji-hwan and Fatima had always been his parents, always been safe. "Camping sounds perfect," Fatima agreed, "but only if everyone finishes their homework tomorrow." The children groaned good-naturedly and scattered to wash up. Ji-hwan crossed to Fatima and wrapped his arms around her from behind, exactly as he'd done on their wedding night 5 years ago. "How was your day?" he murmured against her neck. "Good. Clinical rotation at the hospital was intense but rewarding. How was yours?" "Closed a major contract with a supplier in South Korea. We're expanding the Seoul office." Ji-hwan turned her to face him. "I want to take you there next month, show you where I grew up, introduce you to the few family members who don't hate me." "I'd love that," Fatima said. Then she paused, a secret smile playing on her lips. "Though, We might want to wait a few months. Ji-hwan's eyes widened. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I found out today. Fatima watched emotions flicker across her husband's face. Shock, joy, wonder, love. Another baby. He whispered, Fatima, you've given me everything. We've given each other everything. She corrected, pulling him down for a kiss. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Fatima's mother had cooked traditional Ethiopian dishes alongside Korean side dishes, and the children ate with enthusiasm, arguing playfully about who could eat the most injera. Afterward, they gathered in the living room for their evening ritual, Ji-hwan reading to the children while Fatima graded nursing school assignments. At 8, they tucked the twins into bed. Grace demanded 3 stories and 2 songs. David wanted to know complex questions about stars and space that Ji-hwan patiently answered. Sung-min, older and more independent, read in his own room for a while before calling for good-night hugs. Finally alone, Ji-hwan and Fatima retreated to their bedroom. The master suite had been remodeled last year, now featuring a reading nook and a balcony overlooking the mountains. They stepped outside into the cool evening air, holding hands. Do you ever think about how we started? Fatima asked softly. That desperate night in the diner. Every day, Ji-hwan admitted. I think about how close I came to losing everything. If you hadn't been working that night, if you hadn't offered to feed Sung-min, if you'd been too scared to help a dangerous man. He shook his head. My whole life would be different. Mine too. I'd probably still be working 3 jobs, alone and grieving. Fatima leaned against him. Instead, I have this incredible family. I'm becoming a nurse. I wake up every morning next to the man I love. The man who used to kill people for a living, Ji-hwan said wryly. The man who chose to change his entire life for his son, Fatima corrected. The man who fought impossible battles to keep us together. The man who loves me so completely that I sometimes can't believe it's real. Ji-hwan pulled her closer, his hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach where their 4th child grew. It's real. Every moment, every day, every breath. This life we've built is real, Fatima. And I'll spend the rest of my life being grateful for it. They stood together on the balcony, watching the stars emerge over the mountains. Below, their children slept safely. Inside, their home radiated warmth and love. Behind them lay a past filled with violence and pain. Before them stretched a future bright with promise. I love you, Fatima whispered. My dangerous man who became gentle. My broken man who became whole. I love you, Ji-hwan replied. My brave woman who saved me, my light in the darkness, my forever. They kissed under the stars, 2 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and built something beautiful from the ruins of their past lives. A Korean man who'd left the Mafia. An Ethiopian woman who'd lost everything and found it all again. 3 children with a 4th on the way. A love story that had survived violence, prejudice, custody battles, and countless obstacles. This was their happily ever after, hard-won, precious, and absolutely real. And as they went back inside to their warm home, their sleeping children, and their shared bed, they both knew that every struggle had been worth it to arrive at this moment of perfect peace. Their story had begun with a desperate cry in a diner at 2 a.m. It continued now with laughter in a mountain home, with children growing strong and safe, with love that deepened with every passing year. And it would go on forever. Because some bonds forged in crisis become unbreakable in peace. Because sometimes the most dangerous man makes the gentlest father. Because sometimes the most broken hearts heal into the strongest. This was their truth. This was their triumph. This was their forever, beginning anew with every sunrise over the Blue Ridge Mountains, with every shared glance, with every whispered "I love you" in the darkness, perfect, complete, theirs. If you enjoyed this story of Jihuan and Fatima's incredible journey from a desperate encounter to a beautiful forever, please subscribe to our channel for more touching romance stories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like this video if their love story touched your heart.